We all need gis, rush guards, and a bunch of gear to train jiu-jitsu. Here at Roll Academy, we've been using Fuji Sports for a very, very long time, but more importantly, they've been sponsoring the Roll Radio podcast for over a year at this point. Gary?
Yeah, I'm checking out the website right now. Anything you could possibly need, but the new stuff, this American Grappler stuff, is amazing. It's so slick looking. Rash guard shorts, really cool, giant eagle on it. It is nice. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, they've got the Be a Menace Happy No-Gi lineup. So as you're getting choked out, you're looking up at the nice smiley face emoji. Anything you could possibly need, you can find at fujisports.com.
You have questions, I have answers. I started a brand new podcast just recently that's available on all podcast platforms and YouTube. It's called Ask a Black Belt. Very simple. You drop me questions, I answer them. Very simple. 5-6 minutes. Gary, have you heard it?
I have heard it, and I really appreciate it. How do those questions get to you?
Well, listen, you can message me on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. But you can also comment on any post that I make, and I try to genuinely answer the questions as fast as I can, and they get posted 3 times a week as it is right now.
Beautiful. Ask a Black Belt. Check it out on your favorite podcast platform.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we're live.
Here we go again.
You know, I am so frozen that I can't even do the clap.
You know, it's cold in here.
It's freaking cold.
We need to talk to the boss about letting us have
Heaters?
that thermostat. No, giving us control of the thermostat.
We need to.
I know the boss, and they get a notification when the temperature goes up, and then they turn it back down.
Yeah, well, I think you are in a doghouse with the boss about the catch-up thing. So I don't know. I don't know if I would bring up the heat right now. Well, you want to be strategic about this.
If she wants the kids in the kids class to freeze, that's up to her.
You really blaming things on kids? Seriously?
On kids? No, I'm not blaming it on the kids. I'm using the kids as a
as a leverage.
As leverage, yes.
Is that even legal?
Those poor little children.
I think for first time,
cold feet.
I think for first time I understand why Ray has a little heater
under his desk
to get his toes warm and cozy.
Yeah, today is one of those days where I'm going to encourage the kids to wear socks on the mat. Go ahead, leave them on. Put your coats back on, too.
Yeah, so in case you're wondering, it's -5 Fahrenheit?
Something like that. Yeah.
It's freaking ridiculous.
It's stupid cold.
Freaking ridiculous.
But hey, it gets like this a few days every year. It's to be expected, I guess, as long as it's not one of those polar vortex years where it's like this for 3 weeks in a row. And,
one day is long enough. I'm ready to move on.
It lets you know you're alive.
I'm ready to move on.
It's good stuff.
And on top of this, they give me iced coffee.
Well, you need to make coffee at home. I know somebody who got you a coffee grinder. I don't know why you're not making it at home. Well, somebody else got you a really nice coffee maker one year.
I do make it. But when you go to get the car taken care of, forget it.
One of these, buddy, a really nice dual line
Gary
travel mug.
You don't understand me.
I do understand you. I do. What are we talking about today?
I don't know.
2.5 minutes into this nonsense. So
don't say, what is it?
Never say always.
Never say always.
Right?
Never say
always. What does that mean?
Just like never say never.
Right. Absolutely. I think that, we were talking to Thomas, it's the takeaway. And, I don't even remember exactly why he brought that up, but it made sense that you can just, in jiu-jitsu, and in life, you cannot say always. I'm always going to be this way. I'm always going to do that.
Well, the reason he brought it up because we were talking about things working and being open-minded about training and putting your ego aside and really continue evolving, right? And by saying always, you're committing yourself to that extreme, just like you say never. You commit yourself to that extreme and being being just open-minded about things, in jiu-jitsu particularly, because one, we change, but two, jiu-jitsu changes as well. So there's this continuous evolution on both sides, running parallel to each other, if you will, right? So there's a lot of moving parts. Does that?
Yeah, well, I think that if you do say always, and he alluded to this, you're going to get worse. You're not going to, and I think what he means by that is you're not evolving. You're not moving at the same pace that the art is moving, right? This is one of those arts that's always evolving. It's always taking on new shapes, whether it's development of techniques or nuance within techniques or movements. And when you say always, you probably at some point will become stagnant and you're not going to move along with everything else. And in doing so,
let's explain what we mean.
You're going to get
because
worse.
we're very hypothetical right now. Give me an example.
What do you? It could be anything. Look what happened. I don't know why, but I'm thinking about half guard right now, right? With Gordo. Half guard up until that point was a last ditch effort to save yourself. Now it can turn into a very offensive technique. Well, if you stayed in that I don't even remember what year it was, 99 moment, and you still think half guard, that's only when I'm in danger. It's my last gasp. You're missing out on all those things that have been developed over the years within that position. So you could say it's kind of a theoretical thing here. You're not necessarily getting worse, but everybody is passing you by. Everybody else is developing. Your skill level might be staying the same.
I don't know. I will argue that. I think you do get worse. I think you do get worse.
Well, it's relative, right? If everybody else is moving up and you're staying at the same level, not learning anything new, well, then by comparison, more people are going to be better than you. You will look worse, but your skill set could still be the same.
Well, I'm even going to argue that one. I mean, I want to challenge this because I do think if we're not evolving, we are actually moving backwards.
Okay.
Simply because
everybody else is moving forward.
No, because the art evolves. So it means I'm not talking about my training partners get better. Right. I'm talking about half guard changes. Mm-hmm. Right? So by us not adapting new techniques, we actually stay stagnant and we start forgetting things. We are not stimulating our mind. As a result of it, we're moving backwards, which means what we knew 5 years ago, we forgot about it because we don't do it. We're not continuously evolving and challenging ourselves and continuously stimulating our mind. Okay. So I actually think that we actually do go backwards. Mm-hmm. This is like we talked about it several times. Jiu-jitsu is a perishable skill. If you don't do it, we forget. This is why it is so difficult to come back from breaks. Some of them are due to circumstances out of our control, like injuries, families, professions, priorities in life, whatever the case is. I'm never giving anybody a hard time about taking a break. But I will always tell everybody it is extremely difficult to come back from a break. Yeah. It is hard because, one, we compare ourselves to me pre-break, right? Which at that point, I was more active. I was continuously stimulating my mind with jiu-jitsu. Now I had this break, which means I was not. So I'm moving, not only I'm stagnant, but I'm actually moving backwards in my opinion. And now we come back with a mind of, I want to be where I was. I don't want to go backwards. I want to start from the point where I left off.
Right.
And really the only way to achieve that, you need to stay stimulated as much as you can, depending on the circumstances, through your break. Right? So videos, visiting, listening to awesome podcasts like Raw Radio, I heard is pretty cool.
Now, one of those guys is cool.
Thanks.
The other one's pretty long-winded.
Thanks. Thanks. You finally understand me.
Yes. Here we go again. When we make fun of each other, we lose track.
But lose track.
I think people need to be prepared. You need to prepare yourself for those breaks, I think. If you know they're coming, or if it's something, it could be anything. It could be a car accident, but if it's not too tragic and you're like, okay, I'm going back to jiu-jitsu when the doctor says I can, you need to prepare yourself and go into it knowing that, okay, I'm going to be a few steps behind where I was. and everybody else is going to be a few steps ahead of where they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you go into it that way, hopefully, you'll catch up. You'll get back to where you wanted to be or where you were, and then you'll start growing again.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take a couple steps backwards, and then you're going to figure it out, and you'll be back to where you were, and then you'll be better again, But I think getting back to that always thing is, always and never. It's like, it's so absolute that I think you're pretty close-minded if you're not willing to accept that without your control, things are going to change. And there's nothing you can do about it. Whether you're talking about jujitsu or work or
life.
Your kids. I often see people that I grew up with that are exactly the same as when we were 17 years old, 18 years old. And it's like, and sometimes they'll be like, what happened to you? Talking about
pointing
me.
at the opposite side.
Well,
why are you so weird?
I changed. I accepted new things. I moved forward. I realized that I didn't know everything back then, and I'm willing to explore new avenues. And then, okay, hey, you know what? Actually, this might be more for me than that was, or what have you. So I think you could really, really pigeonhole yourself if you have that mentality of I'm always going to be this, or I'll always feel this way. This will always be my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, we don't have to look for examples far away. I mean, if 3 years ago I told you that it will never happen that a country is shut down because of some darn virus, you would tell me, well, that will never happen.
Well, I mean, I'm more of the ilk of, it would. I could see that happening.
But you mean general population. But there are these circumstances, that we never predicted until they actually happen, until they take place. And then we take them under consideration as part of the evolution, part of life. Or like, well, okay, well, that happened, blah, blah, blah time.
Right.
This actually could happen again.
Right. And what do I do with it? Hopefully the knowledge that I gained during that situation.
But pivoting this to jiu-jitsu, this happens often. I'll never use fill blank. This never works for me. Or this always works for me.
Yeah, it's funny because, I'll never invert, right? Whatever, because I'm old and I got a gut on me and, my hips and blah, blah, blah. And you go on and on and on. And then I did something the other day and somebody was like, whoa, you're going all inverted on me. And I was like, no, this to me was the best way to escape at this particular moment.
When did this happen? I'm pulling the footage off camera.
It was a week ago, or less than a week ago. But it's like, don't knock until you try it. You can do it. And we often talk about, like, people will say, oh, I got short legs, or I got short arms, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. Those things might be, make things more challenging for you, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. You can do triangles with short legs. You can do, spider guard with short arms and short legs. And you can invert when you're old and fat. You can do it. Don't say that you can't, because if you say you can't, you never will. It's just, that applies to jiu-jitsu or anything else. I tell my kids all the time, yes, you can. Yeah, you can, and then, it happened on the mats with my daughter where she, and it was funny because it was kind of the reverse of what we're saying. She swept somebody. Next round, she was in a bad position. I was like, do this again. She tried. She said, I can't. I said, you just did it to somebody else the last round. Oh, yeah. I mean, she's 9 years old. Oh, yeah. And she did it. Yeah. So it's like, if you go into it with that mentality of I can't, well, then you're right.
So why do you think we do this? Why do we use these extreme mindsets, or why are we going into these extreme mindsets when we say, well, this will never work? This do always this, or why do we use these? I can't. I don't know. Like, these are the extremes, especially in jiu-jitsu. Like, why some say, I'll never do spider guard.
Right.
For whatever. I'll never use that, or, you always got to do this, right? Why do we go into these extremes?
It could be because we're closed-minded. It could be ego. I think there's a lot of different factors. This is where we need one of those psychologists that we always talk about getting on, and we don't. I don't have the answer for that other than what I just said, and maybe fear. Change is hard, right? You got to work at it. You want to do Spider Guard, you got to do it. You want to write a book, you got to write the book. And I think it's hard to get started because you're going to fail. You're going to fail. You're going to write something and it's going to be crap, and you're going to go back and read it later and you're going to want to rewrite it. Happens to me all the time. And you're going to try Spider Guard, and your guard's going to get passed easily multiple times until you start getting better at it. So
fear of failure.
Fear of failure, ego. I mean, there's a ton of different, or there's probably a lot of different reasons why we do that.
This kind of reminds me of what Steve Jobs said decades ago, probably by now. But I don't know if you're not a Mac user, so but listen, this is something,
and I never will be.
This is while he's looking at a Mac.
I have a Mac right
just so you guys, in case you guys are not watching.
If you guys would like to be a sponsor of the Roll Radio,
but this stuck with me a while back when he said this. Mac devices never have power button, and he actually talked about using word never. They have a button to go to sleep, but they don't have a power button. And the theory here was, and I'm sure I'm butchering this, but if you guys never know that story, then let me know, correct me here, because this is the interesting one. They never put a power button because in his mind was power button means that it's done. So there was literally, you cannot turn off a Mac device off. You can put it to sleep and it'll, hibernate essentially, but you cannot turn it power off. You can reset it, but powering off is actually, you have to go through menus and other things. And so they kind of, bleeds into what we are talking about, like these statements, these extreme statements of never, always, can't, essentially put my mind in a position of full commitment in, left or right. If I say, I'll never use this, mentally, I'm preparing myself that I'll never even explore this. I'm shutting that door. Yeah. I'm closing that wall. That curtain is done. Like, I'm not looking in that direction. Versus when we say maybe, then you're leaving the opportunity for it to happen even in the future. I just find this as a very different mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a quote, I don't remember who it's from, and I'll butcher this one too. But if, you say I can, or you say I can't, you're right. You're still right. Either way, so if I can do this, well, then now you got to put in the work. You got to commit yourself to it, and get through the failures that we talked about. And you were right, but you got to do all that. And if you say I can't, well,
then you already made the decision.
Yeah, you made the decision, and it's never going to happen. You're right. You couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So. As humans, we are such interesting creatures.
Yeah, we can be. I don't know. I have a problem with a lot of us, but that's okay. Yeah, and we can be very dull creatures too, right? Very dull, complacent, boring, stagnant.
Yeah. I think we are. Yeah. Just like jiu-jitsu is boring too.
It can be.
It can be.
It can be. It can be. Matches could be boring. Classes could be boring. I think it's how you approach it. And there's all those little things where something that's boring to you could be very exciting to somebody else because they're seeing things that you're not aware of.
Well, end of the day,
that you haven't explored.
End of the day is really up to us, right? Yeah. It's up to us to be hungry. It's up to us to be driven. It's up to us to push forward. It's up to us to seek the knowledge. It's up to us to stimulate ourselves. Nobody else is going to do any of this for us.
No, right? You can have some motivation. You can have some inspiration, but it's up to you to do to have the discipline and put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Just quit moving in that chair, man. It makes a lot of noise. It makes editing these episodes a lot harder.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Let's move along.
All right.
On to the next one.
On to the next one.
Later.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.